They asked me, how many brothers and sisters do you have? And I say 349. And the reason for that is that I'm one of 350 children who went through that same foster home. I was born, me and my twin brother, when our mother was in prison. And then 3 days later, we went home with a foster family, first as wards of the court and then in foster care. There was always at least 14 of us at one point in time, but when people see a foster youth, they view them as being different. They think that there's something wrong with them, right? They pathologize it, and it begins with how they view their parents. Their parents must have been terrible people, but then when you go to the children, what you find is then they're viewed as being lazy, they don't care, they're not really here for school, they're not committed, they're futureless. And that pathologizing of culture is something that I experienced throughout my own experience because that's how foster children are treated. But add on top of that, this feeling of my parent didn't want me and gave me away.
For over 20 years, our local United Way has been supporting foster youth across our community. And the stories that we have heard in regards to the economic pressure and stress that they face, the daily pressures of not knowing if they're gonna have a place to sleep that night or even who they are going to be with, have been not only a burden, but makes it almost impossible to be able to thrive and focus in school.
So for me, throughout my college experience, food insecurity was a major issue. So I would go 2 days, sometimes 3 days at a time without eating. And I would get very hungry, and then as a result, I would not always go to class because we didn't have food pantries and clothing closets and emergency crisis services back then. What we had was figure it out. We know that food insecurity also tends to go well with housing insecurity. So, there were times where I slept in my car. Our family was losing our home. We were trying to figure out how we could support our mother. We just didn't really know what to do.
Our mission at United Way has always been, how do we support children and families not only in the classroom, but also outside the classroom? It's why we have begun to turn to providing housing supports, guaranteed income. It's why we do our free tax prep. All of those things are in order to make sure that children and their families are able to support what is happening in the classroom as well. The basic needs of our foster youth aren't being met, and more is needed.
Only 50% of foster youth are going to graduate from high school. And then for those who go on to college who make it through, only 3 to 4% of them will ever earn a degree. I don't see those as stats. I see those as names, I see those as communities, and I see those as futures. And so we have to think to ourselves, what message does that send to students who've been the most disaffected by society already? Foster youth, our undocumented students, our dreamers, those who have parents who are in college. Like, you start looking at those who've been system impacted, and what your college experience looks like is categorically different than someone else. I feel like I graduated in spite of the system, not because of the system. And because there was no system of support. And so I did the best that I could and I made it through, but there's far too many people who I know who went to Sac State or went to UC Davis or other colleges and universities in our area, and they didn't make it. So our vision for foster youth is not a local vision or even a state vision, it's a national vision. We want Sacramento State to be the place that foster youth, former foster youth from around the country say, I'm gonna go there because I know that they're specifically building an environment for me. What I really think is critical is that our former foster youth have organizations like Sacramento State and United Way that are trying to pave a different way for them and to remove those barriers. We can't remove every single barrier, but we can get some of the bigger ones that we know impact students so that everyone has that ability to be able to walk across the stage at graduation. If you think about emergency crisis services, you think about scholarship dollars, you think about what United Way does, I wish that I could have had that level of support when I was in college, because who knows, maybe I would have graduated with less debt, maybe I would have graduated faster,
Dr. Wood's vision aligns with United Way's vision in that we want our foster youth to be able to successfully complete college in order to thrive in life and not succumb to poverty. They are the future nonprofit leaders. They are the future policy advocates advocating on their behalf for legislation. They are the future Dr. Woods, shaping the minds of the next generation, showing that being a foster youth does not define you.
It sends a message to them about their value and about their worth. That there are people out there who care enough about them that they're willing to invest in them and their future because they know that they're the type of people who are going to turn around and give a hand to somebody else. I know what the struggle is like, and I want them to be able to have the experience that they deserve. They deserve dignity, they deserve support, and they deserve the very best that we have to offer.